So to take us back to the beginning of the year, you may remember I wore a button for a great deal of time up to September 11th, and it was very popular in D.C., and I always had to carry an extra copy of it because people would ask me for a copy on the street. And after September 11th, I stopped wearing it, not because I was afraid to wear it, but I was afraid no one would understand what it meant. And the button said, "Bush doesn't count." And everybody got it. So you may remember that there was an open electoral takeover and an ascendancy of Bush into power. Now, I spoke in Philadelphia prior to the election saying that that would be the case, because I am well aware that the United States does not let the election of significant representatives of its people and the government here come down to a vote. It cannot afford for it to come down to a vote. If we know that the government in the 1970s would spend $10 million to influence the outcome of an election in Chile, how much do you think they spend here where it actually counts? So the only thing that was striking to me during those few days of interchange was that they went outside the script. In my lifetime, the script has always been that they put forward two candidates for the two parties, and no other candidates or points of view are allowed. They frame the debate in which they say the issues that the people care about are debated. They go to great lengths among these candidates to make you feel that there's some difference between them. I call them the evil of two lessers. And I don't vote for elected officials, as the majority of people don't. And actually, technically, if you want to go by the vote, nobody's president and hasn't been for a long time, because the majority of the American people don't vote. But they went through this little play game, and it got up to, well, then they'll have a debate, and then they'll have a poll. I don't know the purpose of a poll in a democratic society prior to the election except to influence the election. And you'll actually get people saying, well, I don't want to vote for a loser and waste my vote, so they'll vote the other way. But in addition to that, it still doesn't matter. I mean, they'll take a landslide if they could get one, but if they have to, they'll miscount the votes. And so they'll give you a poll, they'll tell you who's going to win. Maybe if they think you're too bored with it, they'll have a little horse race like they did this time and make you think there's actually something going on out there on the track, and it's nose to nose and it's Bush to Gore and it's, but coming down to the line, the point is that elections in the United States are ascendancies of particular segments of the class. And so when Clinton was inaugurated, on the local news in TV news in D.C., they had Poppy Bush, as he's called by the family, the father, former director of the CIA, was there sort of snarling into the camera as he left town on the plane, and he said, "I'll give him his term, but I'm coming back." And I took Bush seriously because I felt that Bush had been president at that point since March 31, 1981. Which is the day on which Reagan is nearly killed in a shooting incident that involves a fellow named Hinckley, and the Hinckley and Bush families are like this financially and socially for several decades. And so I'm sure that Reagan took the message when he found out who Mr. Hinckley was, who was doing the shooting, and after that he went and watched movies at Camp David and waved to the press under the helicopter, but Bush was president. And so when he said he was going to come back, I assumed that he would come back. And when I saw that Shrub was the candidate this time around, George W., who was actually the only option they had. They couldn't run Jeb or Neil because that would have created huge scandals. I mean, he was the only one that was so dumb they hadn't involved him in the criminal activity of the family. I mean, the problem is not that the emperor has no clothes, it's that he has no brain and nobody's willing to say it. You see, I mean, now he's suddenly ascended into some sort of vaunted leadership and he's making these brilliant speeches. If you listen to this, I mean, I feel like I'm listening to a 12-year-old describing a video game. There's the evil guys and then us good guys, and we're going to get them and smoke them out. And, I mean, I don't know who he's talking to, but, it's, and at least he's doing a little better at reading the prompter, so you have to give him that. But, I mean, this is not a bright boy. The running joke in D.C. is that if Cheney has a heart attack, Bush could become president. But I knew that he would be president, and I said as much, and I had some nervous Nellies that wanted to vote for Ralph Nader, and they said, oh, well, if I vote for Nader, will I be voting, for Bush? And I said, no, a vote for Gore is a vote for Bush. If you want to vote for Nader, go ahead and vote for Nader. Maybe they'll admit that you got 5%. you know. But I don't want a third party or a fourth party because I think parties are inimical to democracy, and so did Jefferson, so did Washington. But in any case, after they do the debates and they do the poll and they come up to election night, then what they do is they take exit polls and they count the votes as they're coming in across the country, and the network news will announce to you, based on these exit polls and projections, who the President of the United States is, who's going to win the election. And then the other candidate will get up and concede. And then you've got a president. Now that's the script. The script has nothing to do with recounting votes, waiting for absentee votes, checking this or that, even waiting for the final exit votes to come in or all the polls to close. You're just told and the other guy concedes. And that started to happen, and then all of a sudden Gore balked and said that he wasn't going to concede on the vote and he was going to fight it. And I thought, what on earth is going on? I mean, Gore is as much of a player in this game as Bush is. Everybody at that level is in on the shill, so it's not a matter of they're fighting tooth and nail for this position. And in fact, the Democrats, the way they fought it, was guaranteed to make sure that the vote came out for the Republicans anyway, you know, and Gore went off and grew his beard and has been quiet as a mouse. So, I mean, that wasn't the point, but it was just that there they are out of the script, and it took me a little while to get it, that they wanted us to know. That they were sending us a message as blatant as the assassination of John F. Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963. And the message is, you don't elect the president. And they pulled up that petticoat, and not just us, but the whole world saw that the United States is not an electoral democracy, even for its so-called representative class. And that's a message they wanted you to get at the beginning of the year as Bush came in.